So, why are insecure passwords bad? One of the most popular attacks conducted in the world is what is termed a password spraying attack. This is when an attacker takes a small number of commonly used passwords and tries them against a large number of accounts. These accounts could be found through data breaches belonging to the company that's targeted or third-party companies, and such attacks often net a few successes, as people are lazy with passwords. Once an account is compromised, a common additional step is to see if the owner of the compromised account had used the same password or a similar one for different things that they've signed up for. So we have two sins here. The first being the use of a weak password, which resulted in the account compromise. And the second being password reuse, which increased the scope of the compromise to multiple accounts across different applications and sites. As an aside, even with a secure password in place, it's often a very good idea not to reuse it. As if the company you've signed up for doesn't store passwords securely and are subject to a data breach, your brilliant, well thought out password may be exposed and then tried on different sites by attackers to see if you used it in more than one place. Even very reputable companies have been caught storing passwords insecurely, which have then been exposed through a data breach. So this is more than just an academic threat. So why are weak passwords bad? And what makes a good password? As we've touched on already, weak passwords are bad because they lead to account compromises. This is either through the password spraying attack previously mentioned, or through a more targeted brute force attack against your specific account. We've discussed the former scenario, but with the latter scenario, if the password is weak and an attacker is patient, the account compromise becomes an inevitability, even if the application itself has good brute force protection, as the attacker can simply wait an appropriate amount of time to ensure that their guessing attacks do not arouse suspicion. They fly under the radar and will get in once they stumble across your easily guessable password. But what makes a secure password? Well, the main thing is, from a brute force perspective, the longer the password, the more difficult it is to uncover. Whilst complexity is important, and so you should try to include uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and special characters, the most important thing is to have a password of at least 8 characters. My personal approach is to have a passphrase as opposed to a password. So I may use the phrase digital snail mail for one and all, where I've replaced the 4 and 1 with numbers and I add an exclamation mark to the end. This is a password I'd find relatively easy to remember, and it both meets length and complexity requirements. And it's unlikely to be on any password lists, well, maybe less so after this. But with all those passphrases, won't remembering things become a pain? Well, yeah, it would, which is why using a password manager is a good idea. There are several to choose from, be they paid or free, and they can make the task of creating and remembering passwords a breeze. Many can generate a password based on the rules you set for them, such as minimum length and different character classes. And they can also store passwords generated by yourself. Some even check a password you stored against a list of common passwords found in data breaches, to allow you to see if your password would be considered a common one. So the only password you have to remember is the one for your password manager. Be sure to dig into the relative merits of the various products, as some have features others don't, some may be more secure, and some are just easier to use. But on the whole, password managers provide the convenience of setting secure passwords without the need to remember them, and can be more secure of a storage solution than, say, a text document sitting on your desktop. There are some things to keep in mind with password managers though. Most are not free and have a cost associated with them, especially the more feature-rich or user-friendly solutions. You are also relying on a third party to keep your credentials safe. And some of the products have had vulnerabilities in the past, so it certainly pays to do your research before selecting one. Another important consideration with a password manager is that if someone does gain access, they'll likely have the keys to the kingdom, with access to all your credentials, so be sure to pick carefully. Keep your product up to date and set a very secure master password for your manager. A final word on passwords is that they should not be the only security measure in place for granting access in sensitive applications. Try and ensure that a two-factor authentication mechanism is available, and if it is, use it. Ideally with an authenticator app, like Microsoft Authenticator, or other out-of-band authentication methods, such as email. This ensures, if through some means your credentials are uncovered, all hope is not lost.